𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗪 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗏 𝗦𝗨𝗡𝗧𝗑𝗢𝗙𝗕 brothers and sisters, elders, 𝗬𝗎𝗓 and 𝗬𝗎𝗓. We're here today on the 40th of Imam Hussain alayhi salam in Speaker's Corner. The reason why I'm doing this video today is debates come and go, but people don't realize why we're here today. If you can see behind me, you probably can't, but you can see flags, you can see people expressing emotions, people crying, but people don't know why that's happening. Like, no matter how many times every year the Muslims, the Shia, come out and they show their mourning for Imam Hussain, people still ask, why did you do this? So it means that some sort of message is not getting across. So especially for the non-Muslim audience, within Sunni Shia, man addresses this all the time anyway. But I think it's important for the non-Muslims to also realize what a tragedy occurred over 1,000 years ago. So as a summary, I'm gonna explain the incident, and I'm gonna explain why we're here today and why we do this every single year. Today is the 40th. The reason why we have a significance, in our tradition, we have a significance of 40. There's certain fadail and certain merits of the number 40. As for the fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam announced his prophethood at 40. You have the aspect of, in our hadith sharif it says after 40 years the angel is not light on the deeds you do, meaning up to 40 Allah will keep you easy. After 40 he's strict on you because your intellect has matured. So with the number 40 there's a lot of fadail, there's a lot of remembrance on the number 40. Likewise in our tradition, as a basis, as a asl, we have that on the 40th, when someone passes away or someone's martyred, on the 40th we remember them. We bring back the day they died. So 40 days from today, which is 10th of Muharram, so in the Islamic calendar there's different months. Muharram al-Haram, who pre-Islamic and after Islam, both times in our Sharia, according to our law, it's actually haram to even war. So even if you've got a war with someone, you can't fight in Muharram. That's like the months that are sanctity, you don't fight. In that month, over 1,000 years ago, after the Prophet passed away, you had Imam Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salam. He was the grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You had the grandson of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. What happened was, what you had is that Imam Hussain, as you can see, his mother was Sayyidah Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. His father, Ali al-Murtaza alayhi salam. His brother, Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And his grandfather, Rasulullah, who the Prophet of Islam, Al-Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So this noble family is called the Ahl al-Bayt, the people of the household, who us as Shia Muslims follow. And all Muslims revere. All Muslims revere them. Now, obviously, the reason why I'm here today is to deal with the aspect of what happened to the Prophet's family. So there's a lot of things, a lot of tragedies that I can go into with the Prophet's family's lives. Starting from Imam Ali and Sayyidah Fatima, all the way down to Imam Hussain. But today, to keep it mukhtasar, because today is Yawm al-Hussain. After the Prophet passed away, we know what happened. We know what happened with the Khulafa. We know what happened with the Prophet's family. Forward a couple of years forward, Muawiyah takes power. He fights Imam Ali. He has a war with Imam Ali. In that war, Imam Ali beats him. It's called the Battle of Siffin. Imam Ali annihilates him. When he does that, when they're about to lose the war, Muawiyah's army puts the Quran on spears as a ploy to get out of the war because he's about to lose. When he does this, Imam Ali's army says, look, we can't fight these lot. They put the Quran on spears. How can we fight such people? Imam Ali says it's a ploy. They're trying to trick you. Imam Ali's army didn't listen. After that happened, there was an arbitration. Suffice it to say that Muawiyah's arbitrator, Amr ibn As, betrayed Imam Ali's representative, who was, if I'm not mistaken, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, even though Imam Ali was against him being the representative. They tricked him. So Muawiyah was able to retain power even though he had lost the war. Later on, Imam Ali gets martyred by the Khawarij, Abdurrahman ibn Muljim, Lanatullah alayh. After he was martyred, what happens? Imam Hussain gets ready to fight Muawiyah again. After he gets martyred, after Imam Ali gets martyred, what happens? Imam Hussain goes out to fight Muawiyah again. This is, people don't know about this part of history. Imam Hussain and Imam Ali went at par lengths. They were together. They had one mission. When Imam Hussain went to fight him again, when they got there, Imam Hussain realized that a lot of his army had been compromised. He realized that his own army were not actually really supporting him. He only had a couple of loyal supporters. Imam Hussain, being the grandson of the Prophet, and in his hikmah, to avoid bloodshed amongst the Muslims, he made a peace treaty. A what? A peace treaty. In that peace treaty, they laid down some conditions. The conditions are many, but the main ones, let me highlight the main ones. The main ones were, he said, because Muawiyah had instituted a bid'ah, an innovation of cursing Imam Ali. This innovation happened in Muawiyah's rule. He instituted this. Every Friday, Imam Ali would get cursed, and Muawiyah himself cursed him as well, and all his governors cursed him. Once this happened, Imam Hussain in the peace treaty said, listen, stop cursing my father. Stop cursing my father. That's going to be the one peace condition treaty. Second condition was, after you die, give the khilafah or the rulership, give it back to us, or have, at least in some conditions it says, have a shura or have an election. The point is, it's not yours, you need to give it back. Two conditions. When this, and the third condition was, Imam Hussain said, in our books it mentions this, do not call yourself Amir al-Mu'mineen. Do not call yourself Amir al-Mu'mineen. What does that mean? Imam Hussain was trying to say, you're not the leader. Amir al-Mu'mineen is the person that can be the leader. He's trying to say, listen, you're not a leader. Anyone can lead. You're not Amir al-Mu'mineen. There was many conditions, but suffice it to say, Muawiyah broke every single one. The cursing continued. The cursing continued. And when Muawiyah died, what did he do? He left the kingship, what you could call the khilafah according to their terminology, he left it to his son, who I'm here to discuss today, the Mal'oon Yazid. He left it to him. When Yazid took power, Yazid knew that he had to solidify his rulership. He knew that, listen, until the Prophet's family accept me, because I already know what Imam Ali done, I know what Hassan done to my father, until they accept me, until they accept my rule and they validate it, no one's gonna accept me. No one's gonna accept my rulership. So what did he do? He basically sent people to Imam Hussain and said, listen, you need to accept me via messengers. Via messengers, he said, you need to accept me. Imam Hussain said, listen, I'll never his famous statement was, someone like me can never accept a man like Yazid. He made it clear. Imam Hussain was in Makkah and Medina. Imam Hussain had to leave those areas because he realized Yazid was actually going to send people to kill him in those areas. And he didn't want to disrespect the sanctity of those muqaddas places with his blood, even though his blood is holy as. But he didn't want to disrespect those sanctities, so he left. He had also received letters from the people of Iraq. In those letters they said, we have no imam, we don't accept Yazid, come and help us. Inshallah, we'll deal with in detail, maybe at a later time or later on today, who those people were who wrote those letters. Because we always get accused of, oh, the Shia called him. The Shia called him and then they betrayed him. Inshallah, I'm going to find out exactly who called him and who was involved in that. But khair, Imam Hussain left for South Iraq. When he went South Iraq, who did he take with him? He took his brothers, his sisters, his family members, his family. As a total, they say 72 or 73 members, according to the Ruwaya. You can see this is not an army. This is him taking his family. Imam Hussain had people, and it wasn't a long time until Imam Hussain had passed away. Muawiyah ruled for a long time, it's true. But Imam Hussain could have easily got soldiers. He chose not to, and he went to South Iraq. He went to South Iraq. When he went to South Iraq, he was stopped. Who stopped him? Umar bin Sa'ad. Umar bin Sa'ad, who's the Mal'oon general of Yazid. And by the way, Umar bin Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. So he's the son of the famous Sahabi Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Yazid is the son of Muawiyah, two sons of two Sahaba. When he went there, Umar bin Sa'ad stopped him and said, listen, you need to stop here. And they reached a place called Karbala. Keep in mind, Imam Hussain knew already what was going to happen. Imam Hussain knew what was going to happen. The Prophet had told him what was going to happen. Watch out for that. After that happened, Imam Hussain stopped in Karbala. So they stopped in Karbala. There's other names that you can call them. Some people call them Nineveh. Some people call it Karbala. It's in South Iraq. When he was stopped there, wrong place to do it. After
Arabic, remember Al-Haq, Al-Haq. Jesus Christ said, I am Al-Haq.
he is the Al-Haq. He is, no doubt. But 2 minutes, like, do it after. So, sorry, I had to move because Baba was getting a bit emotional. What I was saying was Imam Hussain alayhi salam reached South Iraq. When he reached South Iraq, Umar bin Saad, who I said is the son of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, stopped him. And he stopped his horse. Imam Hussain, like I said, numbers-wise, had 72 people. Who was it? Brothers, sisters, the women, companions, family members, cousins. And each one of them was a lion by himself. And Yazid's army, the historians differ. Some say 10,000, some say 20, some say 30, some say 40. But like I said, take the lowest number in history, no problem. Take the lowest number. Take even a 10,000 if you want. Take 5,000. The point is that they were outnumbered heavily. According to muhaqqiqeen, ulama of research, they generally mention that 20,000 is an acceptable number, but we can take lower for the sake of the argument. When they reach there, again, you see, even me justifying all of this to you, it's just that certain people don't want to condemn this, and certain people for 1400 years they don't want to talk about this. This is why us lot do marches. This is why we come out every year to let people know what happened, because Muslims still don't know. They still don't know what happened, and when they do find out, they say, oh, it's history, leave it. When Imam Hussain was stopped there and the army surrounded them, they said, listen, we want you to give bayat to Yazid. Give allegiance to Yazid. Yazid ibn Muawiyah, give allegiance to him. Imam Hussain said no. Imam Hussain said no, I'm not going to give allegiance. Someone like me, because look, Imam Hussain is the Prophet's grandson. He stands as the character of the Prophet. When people used to look at Imam Hussain, they used to see the Prophet's character in it. If Imam Hussain had accepted Yazid, everyone would have been like, what Yazid? Yazid, in terms of his traits, womanizer, alcoholic, done zina, play with monkeys. At the same, Ibn Kathir mentions that he used to play with monkeys. It's not, I'm not adding stuff here. This was his character. And I want to tell you what he done after Karbala as well. Just so that no one sees it as this is only about Karbala. It's a lot more than what Yazid done. The biggest thing is what he done on Karbala. But however, he didn't finish there. After he done that and they stopped him, Imam Hussain said, I'm never going to accept him. Alright, cool. And remember, this is South Iraq, desert. For those that are beneficial, for those that have been to Iraq or in the Middle East, these places are, it's sand, it's like a desert. It is a desert. It's scorching hot. So I'm talking about when they were kept there for 10 days. On the 7th or 8th day, Yazid's army, remember the person that was controlling it was Umar bin Saad. He was in control by Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad was the son of Ziyad, who again was the ally of Muawiyah. You can see the one family, the Banu Umayyah, oppression against the Banu Hashim. These are two families. Banu Hashim is the Prophet's family, Banu Umayyah is the family of Yazid. These two families have been warring pre-Islam. So this was Banu Umayyah's revenge against the Prophet. And this is why a lot of Sunni scholars and Shia scholars have called Yazid a kafir, for this reason. And I'll get into that. When they stopped them, on the 7th or 8th day, Yazid's army said, listen, or Ibn Ziyad or Umar bin Saad said, listen, Yazid has told us we have to stop the war on them. Ibn Ziyad, stop the war on them. So in the south scorching desert, the water was stopped for 3 days. Now, try and be us man fast in London. One day, we're comfortable, we sleep, we're nice. One day you fast, even in cold weather, you're out, you're finished. These people, the Prophet's grandson, the granddaughters of the Prophet's family, that's why we wear green, for the Prophet's family. And because we're descendants of the Prophet's family. They were stood there in the heat for 3 days without water. 3 days. By this group of Yazid and his army. And it's interesting that in history it actually mentions that and this will tell you about the mentality of the killers. They said keep Imam Hussain thirsty the same way Uthman was kept thirsty. Because remember, Uthman was cornered in his house, and when he was cornered, he wasn't given any food and water as well. So the Yazid's army had that same mentality that we're getting for revenge for Uthman, but on who? On Imam Hussain. What does Imam Hussain have to do with it? But it shows you who was behind it. The people that were behind it weren't Shia, they were the ones that loved Uthman. Because they said, oh, the way Uthman was kept killed, the way Uthman was kept thirsty, keep Imam Hussain thirsty. So what is this telling you? When they kept them thirsty for 3 days, on the 10th day, Imam Hussain still never gave up. Imam Hussain said, I'm still not going to accept you. Because the blood of the Prophet runs through my veins. I'm talking about Imam Hussein's mentality. The blood of the Prophet runs through his veins. The blood of Imam Ali runs through his veins. The blood of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra runs through his veins. The Prophet said about him, Al-Hasan wa Hussein, 𝗧𝗩𝗔𝗧𝗓𝗦𝗓 the are the leaders of the youth of paradise. Meaning every man who goes heaven, the person that you're going to be underneath is who? Hassan and Hussein. And what did the Prophet say in a hadith that continues? And their father is better than them. And their father is better than them. So what does that mean? It means that when Imam Hussain was taking a stand, he was standing for Islam. This ain't were political battle. He was standing and saying, listen, someone like me, my bloodline, my family, the Prophet left me in charge. The Prophet left us involved. You lot are no ones. I'm never going to accept you. On the 10th day, Yazid's army got the order, finished. ISIS stuff. The way I can relate to the mandem that are people that are here today, or people that understand the thing, will be ISIS. Yeah, Raj, listen to this. Stop being Islamophobe, listen. Okay. So basically, no, Raj. I knew he was going to get Raj. Listen to this. When the Prophet's family were kept there, on the 7th of Muharram, the Islamic month, they were kept there for 3 days with his family, 72 members, brothers, sisters, women, children, brothers, cousins, uncles. On the 7th day, they stopped the water. Where? In South Iraq, in the scorching desert. On the 10th day, Yazid's army said, if they're still not going to accept me as the king, if they're still not going to accept who? Yazid, i.e. in today's time, 𝗦𝗢𝗥𝗕𝗦𝗢𝗔 al-Baghdadi, you know its similarity? If you're not going to accept him, you're dead. We're going to finish you. Imam Hussain said, be it, so be it. On the 9th day, they were going to kill him. Imam Hussain said, give me one more day, so that my family can recite Quran, so that we can pray, so we can remember our Lord. We can remember him the way he deserves to be remembered. Give us one more day. Yazid's army said, no problem. That last night, they spent their whole night doing ibadah. They spent their whole night prostrating, reciting Quran. They used to say that if you used to walk past, it was like bees. You could hear them humming Quran all night. On the 10th day of Muharram, Yazid's army said, ready to fight. Keep in mind, if all the Muslims that know and the non-Muslims who fast 1 day without water in a cold country, your legs shake. These people on a desert for 3 days, no water or food, in a desert. On the 10th day when they came out, one by one, Yazid's army massacred the Prophet's family in such detail that I can't even explain on camera. In our masajid, in our majalis, in our gatherings, in our centers, we can't even recite. We can't even recite how deep it is. Because if I recited to you how they butchered them, people couldn't control themselves. That's why the Shia cry. That's why the Shia mourn. Because we have a connection to the family. Oh, you who don't mourn, you wouldn't mourn because you have no connection. How would you mourn when you have no connection to the family? Unless you're involved in it. Unless you, the same guys who say, why do you mourn? When you ask them about Yazid, they'll say, he made a mistake. That's a mistake. Did Bin Laden, what Bin Laden done, was that a mistake when he done Twin Towers into the Twin? If someone goes, that's a mistake, what would you say? You'll say, bro, go get yourself checked out. You're not well. Is it a mistake? On the 10th day when he massacred the whole family, and by the massacre I'm going to give you just a basic understanding because I want to keep the respect of Imam Hussein's sanctity, and you can read this in the books of history. They massacred each one. You can imagine, even if all of you men around me, how many men around me? What? Not even 100. If all of you now try swing for me, how long would I last? 72 versus minimum 10,000, minimum 5,000, whatever number you want. And they still fought after 3 days of being hungry and thirsty. This is the blood of the Prophet. This is the blood of the Prophet that people cannot hide. After they done that, they martyred each one. And what did they do afterwards? Something that we see today. They beheaded every single one. The Prophet's grandson was beheaded by these criminals. Yazid ibn Muawiyah and their gang.
Is that Ali?
Ali's grandson. Ali's grandson is Hussein. Hussein is the son of Ali. Ali is the cousin of the Prophet. He's married to the Prophet's daughter Fatima. Hassan and Hussein. Hassan, according to tradition, was poisoned by Muawiyah. Keep that in mind. Hussein was killed by Muawiyah's son Yazid, brutally. When he martyred them, he had a 6-month-old, Hazrat Al-Ali Al-Asghar, alayhi salam. Imam Hussain said, listen, before he was martyred, he said, you've got a problem with me, okay? What have you got to do with my 6-month-old son? What have you got to do with my 6-year-old son? He took his baby in front of Yazid's army. When he took the baby in front, this is all history. This is the history that Muslims don't tell you. When he took the baby, he said, listen, my baby has done nothing to you. He's innocent. What did Yazid's army do? Yazid's army, some of them had some mercy in their hearts. They started crying. They realized, this is the river Euphrates, by the way. That same river that runs today. That same river where this water, because Imam Hussain wanted water from there. When he never gave that water, when he brought his son, Yazid's general, his name was 𝗙𝗢𝗎𝗓. He realized that my army is starting to get emotional. My army could basically say, you know what, this is wrong. So what did Yazid's army do? They started crying and they started getting emotional. 𝗙𝗢𝗎𝗓 said, listen, Umar bin Sa'ad said to 𝗙𝗢𝗎𝗓, end this. End this meaning, kill the Prophet's great-grandson. Kill the 6-month-old baby. Kill him. What did he do, 𝗙𝗢𝗎𝗓? Lanatullah alayh. Allah's curse be upon him 1,000 times. Bar Yazid lanat. Beshmar. He got his arrow. And this arrow, by the way, the people mention that this arrow were the arrows that used to fight for war. Hunting arrows. Animals will die from this. Strong. Hunting. He unleashed it. It hit the 6-month-old Ali al-Asghar while he was in Imam Hussein's hand. And when he had it in his hand, that's when he saw the blood in his hand, Imam Hussain. And he had that blood. And Imam Hussain saw the baby. And Imam Hussain had the blood in his hand. And he got the blood and he threw it in the air. And he said, Ya Allah, be a witness, this blood was for you. These men talk about mujahideen, these men talk about wars, about jihad. That's jihad. Not the other side. The other side are terrorism. They were terrorists then and they're terrorists now. I'm going to get to that.
They claim to be Muslim.
And they claim to be Muslim, by the way.
They claim to be Muslim.
Let the non-Muslims know. The people that done this, they prayed. They fasted. They recited Quran. They weren't saying, oh, we're not Muslim. They said they were Muslim, but they done this act. So when man them go around saying, oh yeah, but mujahideen extremism, know who the real extremists are. Know who's before the non-Muslims were oppressed. We were oppressed a long time before you lot. You lot just getting it now. We've been getting it time before you lot. We got it 1400 years ago. We've been getting it since then. And if these terrorists can go for the Prophet's family, who are me and you? Who are me and you? Some random Muslims that live today, or random non-Muslims that live today. They went for the Prophet's family first. And they recited the kalma, and they prayed.
So do you put Bilal and Suleiman in that category?
That mentality, anyone who supports ISIS is in that camp. I don't know what they're on because they keep, they keep doing that.
Support 𝗙𝗢𝗎𝗓,
so it's close enough, isn't it? It's the mentality. Sometimes you don't have to do the act, Raj. It's about the mentality. What is your mentality? When you see someone die, are you always trying to make excuses, or do you actually feel sad? It's about the mentality, bro. Because with that mentality, extremism grows. After Imam Hussain done that, and they killed a 6-month-old child who was the Prophet's great-grandson, and they killed loads of children. Not only Ali Asghar was the youngest. 𝗙𝗢𝗧𝗦𝗍𝗓, who was Imam Hassan's son, they killed him as well. After that was done, they all cornered. After they done that, they cornered Imam Hussain, and they all jumped on him like animals that they were. The way they jump on people today. And they massacred Imam Hussain. And astaghfirullah, they beheaded him. The blessed head of Imam Hussain, they butchered. The details are gory. So anyone who wants to research, just go research the Battle of Karbala. You can study it, find the historical sources, you'll know how deep it goes. For the sanctity of the Prophet's family, we don't go deep because of their sanctity. After that happened, what did they do? Were they finished? No. There was women. What did they do with the women? The camps. At that moment in time, there was camps. So women would camp themselves in the camps. So all the men were there. Now all the men were martyred, and there was women and children left. What did Yazid's army do afterwards? The order by Umar bin Sa'ad was, listen, army, get your horses and trample over the bodies of the Prophet's family. So they're dead now. They're in pieces. They're beheaded. What does he do? He says, trample over the bodies with horses. For those who know how strong horses' hoof is, they know. Trample over the bodies, disfigure the bodies, finish them. After that happened, what did they do? They didn't finish there. They beheaded them. After that, what did they do? They beheaded, they say they even beheaded the children. After that, what did they do? They went to the women's tents. Who was in the tents now? Women and children that were left. They got fire and they burnt the tents. The granddaughters of the Prophet, these Muslims who go about honor of Muslim sisters, they go around saying, oh, a Muslim sister be harmed. They have no honor for the Prophet's granddaughters. It's all a fake outrage. If they had outrage, they would be, the first one they would have stood up to was Yazid. But if you ask them today, Yazid made a mistake. Yazid made a mistake. Or some of them deny it. They'll say it wasn't Yazid. Guess what their logic is? You know how dumb these people are, their logic. Yazid wasn't there. He's the general of the army. Was George Bush in Iraq? Was Bin Laden in the plane in 11 September? What kind of logic is that?
Was that guy part of the Sahaba?
Yazid was a son of a Sahaba. He's son of Sahaba. His father 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗍 was a Sahaba. And it's basically because of that they hide it and they're like, look, we know who it's going to go back to. Because the person who basically made Yazid in power and gave him the tools and the ability to implement it is 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗍.
So what's going on over there then?
This march is to represent, it's the 40th day, so about 1400 years ago the martyrdom happened. Every year we remember it. So this day is 40 days ago. So 40 days ago from this day, the martyrdom happened.
What was going on 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, so people use different dates at times and they differ on dates. But generally it's the same day.
So it's the same celebration.
Same commemoration, exactly. Now what happened after that? They burnt the tents. When they burned the tents, the woman started, they had no choice. The woman had to come out the tents. The woman had to come out the tents. Bear in mind, who are these women? They're the Prophet's granddaughters. When they come out the tents, these people had the audacity to even, remember, the Prophet's family, granddaughters, they weren't seen. They weren't normal women, they were special women. No one could see their face. It was a sanctity for the Prophet's household. Their face scarves were taken off. And remember, for a woman of dignity, for a woman of the Prophet's family, that's a big thing. It might not be big for a woman today, but for the Prophet's household, that was a massive devastation. And what did they do? They put everyone in chains. Women. And where's Iraq and where's Syria?
What's the reasoning behind it? That was a Prophet's family. Why would they do it?
Power. Yazid said to Imam Hussain, accept me as the king. Imam Hussain said, and Yazid was a womanizer. He was an alcoholic. He would do zina with his own sisters and family. He was a complete mess. He used to play with monkeys. It's known in history. He was a complete, everything on this is the same individual who attacked the Kaaba the following year, by the way. The same individual, the next year, he attacked Mecca. And the following year, he attacked Medina, the Prophet's city. And what did the Prophet say about anyone who attacks the city? Allah's curse be upon those who attack my city. So he had no care. And I'll tell you why exactly he done it. After the women were put in handcuffs, they were taken from South Iraq all the way where? To Syria, because Yazid's sultanate, Yazid's kingdom, he was based in Syria, in Damascus, which is why Shias visit that place to remember where they were brought. We visit Syria as well. Syria is part of our holy sites because of what happened. When they were taken there in handcuffs, and imagine, they say they were taken in one rope. So imagine everyone here is in one rope. What happens if one person falls? Everyone falls. In the scorching, they were told to walk with handcuffs, chains, at that moment in time. When they were brought to Yazid's courtyard, which was basically what you call the Banu Umayyah mosque. So now, Yazid's courtyard has been renamed and turned into a mosque. It's called Banu Umayyah Mosque. But that wasn't always a mosque, where John the Baptist's head is also there, by the way. That wasn't always a mosque, it was Yazid's lair. It was his kingdom, his palace. When they were brought there, they were told to wait there for hours and hours to further embarrass them. Just waiting there, standing there. Woman couldn't stand. The Prophet's granddaughter was there, Lady Zainab.
And the head of Imam Hussain.
And that's a good point.
Do you know you lot mourn the death of the family? Do the Sunnis mourn the death?
Some do, but they don't mourn as much as we do, or in our way. So we might cry excessively, we might beat our chest. Some Shias might get knives to experience the pain.
It's better to beat your chest and blow yourself up.
See, we've said that from time. We've said at least we hit ourselves, innit? At least we hit ourselves, innit? When we mourn, when they were brought there, like Sayyid Ali said, when they were walking, the Prophet, all the Imam Hussein's family, all the Prophet's family, their heads were put in lances, on spears. So while they're walking, the woman can see their brothers and their children's sons on heads while they're walking.
Where was the modesty of the Muslims then when they were praying?
Where was the care of the Muslims then? Man, them talk about ISIS today. What was that? In reality, this is new for you Westerners about ISIS. You're new to this game. Learn the game. We learned this game time ago. Now you're learning about it. So this is a big message for those that have an issue with these kind of people. Learn to differentiate between who your enemy is. Learn to differentiate between who the terrorists are and where this mentality comes from. Because you're not doing, because we were the first ones, we were the first victim before this.
But do Sunnis have a problem you commemorating?
Some do, some don't. Some do, some don't. And the ones that do, I always question them.
Why would they have a problem then?
Because they say,
They don't want to discuss that part of history.
because that part of history, Yazid,
It opens up.
it might open up to, so who was Yazid's father?
See you later, mate.
It might open up to who's Yazid's father?
Who put him in power?
Who put him in power?
Right. Them in power.
Everything links back. It's a knock-on, it's like a domino
The whole
effect.
thing collapses.
The whole thing collapses.
Like Pandora's box.
Pandora's box, 100. When they were brought there and their heads were shown and everyone was seeing, Yazid was sitting there. Yazid was sitting there. When Yazid was sitting there, Imam Hussein's head, all the soldiers of Yazid showed their heads to Yazid like, look, master, look what we've done for you. Kissing up to him, look what we've done for you. What did Yazid do? But by the way, just a clarification, they went to Kufa first, then they went to Syria. They went to Kufa first, then to Syria. When they went to Syria, Yazid had a stick, he had a cane. When Imam Hussein's head was brought in front of him, Yazid got his cane and hit the head.
He was smacking against the teeth.
He was smacking the teeth, the blessed teeth that the Prophet used to kiss. Lanat for the non-Muslim viewers, Lanat means Allah withdraw your mercy from that individual for the acts he done. So when we say Lanat, or in Arabic La'na, it means Allah withdraw your mercy from that individual for
Why
what he
do
done.
they have such a problem with you kind of like saying Ya Ali and all that?
Ya Ali is more about, to be honest,
But why does Sunnis got a problem with it?
right, to be honest,
What's
it's
the
not
biggest
also,
issue?
to be honest, it's not all Sunnis, but the Sunnis that do, Raj.
Sometimes
Sometimes,
𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗦 when he had the situation with him, that video of the kids like screaming for desperation. He made fun of it like it's a like this.
because their mentality inside is this.
Why does that bring so much hate out of 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗦 that they're saying that though? Because he didn't see the kids as kids. He was just making fun of them saying something.
The same mentality you feel at times, and then you blame everyone. The same mentality where you feel as a non-Muslim,
Shots
the
fired.
same way you feel as a non-Muslim, they don't value your blood, they don't value you as an individual.
He's
It's
putting
that same
words into my
mentality.
mouth, so.
No, I'm saying you do feel like some of the Muslims, they don't value you as a blood, they don't value you as a non-Muslim. You're like, they don't really care about my blood. It's the same thing.
Because I watched that video after and it was very, very sad.
So for someone to comment on that and say, may Allah bless, that guy's dealt with anyway. He's a sick individual. So anyway, so the point what I'm trying to say to you is that after that all that happened, Yazid basically hit with a stick. Who was there? The Prophet's granddaughter, Sayyidah Zainab. And Imam Hussein's son survived. One of his sons, who's our fourth Imam. So Imam Ali's our first Imam, then Imam Hassan, then Hussein, then one son that survived. His name was Zainab, Imam Ali. His name was Ali as well. Imam Hussein's son, great grandson. So his son was named Ali as well. And his title is Zain al-Abidin, the one who is the jewel of prostrators, because he used to prostrate excessively. So the scholars gave him the title, the Zain al-Abidin, the jewel of the ones who prostrate, the best of the ones who prostrate. He was there, he was ill. Imam Zain al-Abidin and Sayyidah Zainab, after all of that, stood there and gave a khutbah. And that khutbah, inshallah, after this video, I'm going to give that khutbah.
The sermon of Lady Zainab.
The sermon of Sayyidah Zainab is so powerful, every man who listens to it will fall in love with the Prophet's family and will know that they have to be people chosen by God. There is no way they are normal people. A woman sees one tragedy today, a man sees one tragedy today, you can't stand after that. These people saw their family massacred and they had the strength to stand there and give a full khutbah in front of the tyrant Yazid. That's jihad. That's the mujahid.
I'm not going because I'm an Islamophobe, I'm just going to go somewhere.
Cool.
Look who's the camera.
After Sayyidah Zainab, and one of the key things that Sayyidah Zainab said, she said that you can never, you know that adhan, because the time of prayer came once she was giving a khutbah. If time gives me, I'll do the khutbah. When the adhan came on, and Yazid thought he had won the war, Sayyidah Zainab said, you see that adhan? That adhan is proof that you haven't won. Because that adhan will continue because of what my brother done today, not you. So you can think you won, but you'll never win. And she says, and one of her beautiful words, just because you think you won a war doesn't mean you won. Because Allah says in the Quran, sometimes He gives you time so that you can go deep in your own sins. And then when you're least expecting it, he captures you. Look at Pharaoh. If you apply the principle of, oh, but if he was bad, why didn't Allah kill him? Why didn't Allah let him rule? Because Allah gives you a chance. He lets you go deep. He gives you a chance to come back. And He lets you go deeper into your sins. And as when you go deeper, when there's no worse you can do, He grabs you and finishes you. That's what happened to Yazid. That's what happened to Pharaoh. After that khutbah, Sayyidah Zainab, that's where she's buried, by the way. She's buried in Damascus. She's buried in Syria right now. And her shrine is there. And guess what these ISIS lot want to do to that shrine? They want to destroy that shrine. People will use excuses. No, we don't do it because we hate them. It's because we don't believe in shrines. No, sometimes where you use excuses, but in reality you've got an issue with the family. You can keep using excuses. You can say we don't like the Shias because they call Ali. We don't like the Shias, because they call upon other than Allah. Your real issue, 100% Muslim first, but we need to expose the criminals. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But guess what? The same people who recited that kalima, but the same people killed the Prophet's family. So that kalima in itself is not enough.
Yeah. Because even the hypocrites used to...
That testimony of faith is not enough until you deal with your actions. If you're killing people and you're reciting it, keep that testimony of faith to yourself, because you're killing the Prophet's family.
Yeah.
It's not important. You reciting it and killing people goes against it. After that happened, after the testimony of faith happened, what happened? After the khutbah happened, what happened? People were then imprisoned. People say Yazid was upset. People say Yazid was upset. They say he didn't know what happened. Why is it that every single person who was part of that war, Yazid didn't punish them? Yazid was happy.
Yeah.
Some narrations, he started crying. If that was the case, why didn't he punish the criminals who done it? Instead, he locked them up in a prison.
But no one cried on his deathbed.
Everyone cries on his deathbed because they know what's going to happen to them now. This is the crime of this mal'oon Yazid. Now, afterwards they were let go and they went back to Medina. The Prophet's family were let go, the people that remained, and they were going back to Medina. Keep one thing in mind now. People say that's where Yazid ends. La. That's not where Yazid ends. Yazid didn't stop there. And Sunni ulama who are fair on this issue have dealt with Yazid as well. And I'll deal with it. I'm going to give the references for that as well. The next year, what did Yazid do? He went and invaded Medina. It's either Makkah first or Medina. Said Ali, is it Medina first or Makkah first?
I think it was Mecca first.
Chalo, no problem. Whichever one first. He done Medina first or Makkah first. He went and attacked those cities. Now those cities are Muqaddas. Today the Muslims, if you talk about Medina, Makkah, they say no, don't say nothing about Saudi because they won't rule of Makkah, Medina. So they show you that they have a sanctity for these lands. Yazid invaded these lands because the people rebelled against him after this. People said, we can never accept someone like Yazid after what he done to Imam Hussain. People started realizing, we can't accept this individual. What did they do? They invaded. Let's go to Medina first. When they went to Medina, what did they do? He said to his soldiers, his governor, his army lieutenant, what did he say? He goes, for 3 days, I have made Medina halal for you.
Mubah, do whatever you want.
Mubah, what does that mean? In Islamic parlance, in Islamic terminology, it means whatever you want to do it. For 3 days, commit every oppression you want to commit.
Women were raped, children were killed.
The Prophet's mosque, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, was used as a stable. Yazid's soldiers used the Prophet's mosque as a stable. The horses were tied in there, and the horses defecated. They made it najis, they made it impure. They impured the Prophet's mosque, number one. Number two, Yazid said, do whatever you want for 3 days. What did they do? They raped hundreds of women. Hundreds of women were raped by Yazid's soldiers. What else did they do? They killed hundreds of Sahaba. Oh, you who say they love the Sahaba, condemn him now. You say if I criticize the Sahaba, if I do law on the Sahaba, I'm a kafir. This guy killed Sahaba.
Where would the Ummah then? They got
No, why don't they do the takfir on Yazid now? He killed the Sahaba. Oh, is Imam Hussain not a Sahabi? After he done that in Medina, and it was known as the people said in history, this was known as the year of unborn, illegitimate birth.
Yeah.
Because so many women gave birth, no one knew the father was, because the soldiers raped and went. This is Islamic history. Learn your history.
So to make that point on Ghazali and let's wrap it up.
1 minute. And there's some scholars like Ghazali or other Sunni scholars who said we shouldn't talk about this. Or even said we don't know what happened with Yazid, we should do taraddi on him. You know, Allah was pleased with him because we do dua for all the Muslims.
Some said condemn him.
Some said condemn him. I'm going to get to the ones who condemned him. So people like Ghazali, who's known as a Sufi scholar, it's very surprising why he done that. People like Ibn Taymiyyah always try to make excuses. In the Salafi manhaj, this is all due respect. The Salafis are the main people who always hide this issue. Sunni Ashari ulama, a lot of them have been fair on this issue. Shah Abdul Aziz from the Indian subcontinent condemned Yazid. Fully condemned him. Read his Fatawa Aziziyah, read his Tuhfa Isna Ashari, which was written against us, by the way. Now I'm going to just read about Makkah, one more reference about Makkah. Then his soldiers invaded Makkah al-Mukarramah. Abdullah bin Zubair, who was the son of a Sahabi, Zubair, he rebelled. He said, Yazid, I don't accept you. They rebelled, they crushed the rebellion, and they attacked the Kaaba. And they say the Kaaba was damaged and attacked. Some say it was even demolished. But the point is the Kaaba was demolished, and they say catapults of fire was thrown on the Kaaba. So what did Yazid do? It wasn't only, someone says Imam Hussain. No. Imam Hussain for us is the biggest, don't get twisted. The Prophet ﷺ said the blood of a Muslim is worth more than the walls of a Kaaba. Muslims get emotional about the Kaaba. This is of a normal Muslim, the Prophet said the blood's worth more.
Yeah.
But how about the Prophet's grandson, who the Prophet said, the 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗓𝗦𝗢𝗢, the leaders of the youth of paradise are Hassan and Hussein. For every Muslim, if you want to enter heaven, just know Hassan and Hussein have to give you that thing on your head to say go in. Otherwise you ain't going nowhere. After they done that in Makkah, they invaded, they attacked the Kaaba. After that, what happened? Yazid died. So what do scholars say? This is how Yazid finished himself. I'm going to read 2 scholars about who done takfir on Yazid to wrap it. So we'll start off with the hadith that Rasulullah said, whoever perpetuates injustices and frightens the residents of Medina, the curse of Allah and His angels and all people is on such a person. This is just for frightening the people of Medina. What is it if you frighten Imam Hussain? What is it if you frighten the Prophet's granddaughter? Not frighten, kill. This is cursed for this. We'll start off the reference by referring to Ahmad bin Hanbal, who's a Sunni Imam. Out of the 4 Imams of Sunni fiqh, Ahmad bin Hanbal is one of the main 4. And it's funny how the Salafis say they follow him, but on this issue, it's like tawasul. They say they follow him on this issue, no. Or he's wrong. Why is he wrong? What does he say about Yazid? He says, so the person quoting this is who? Sayyid Allama Sayyid Mahmud Alusi al-Baghdadi. So Allama Alusi, he's got a tafsir. Tafsir's name is Ruh al-Mani. Ruh al-Mahani is the tafsir of the Quran. He quotes him and he says, Al-Barzanji in Al-Ishad, and Haythami, who's Haythami? Ibn Hajar, Al-Makki, in what book? Yes, Makki. In Al-Sawaiq. Al-Sawaiq is a book written against the Shia. It's not a pro-Shia book. Have recorded that Ahmad bin Hanbal, his son, narrated that he said to his father that he has seen people saying that they love Yazid. So people said to Ahmad bin Hanbal, his son said, people say that we love Yazid.
Like today.
Yeah. So this Ahmad bin Hanbal said, for a person having belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no reason to love Yazid bin Muawiyah. There is no reason. Why should the person not be cursed who has been cursed by Allah in the Quran? His son goes, so that's Salih, his son was name was Salih. He asked, where in the Quran has Allah cursed Yazid? Where is that? I've never seen that verse. Ahmad bin Hanbal replied, there's a verse. Then is it to be expected of you, if you are put in authority, that ye will do mischief in the land and break your ties of kith and kin? Such are the men who Allah has cursed, for He has made them deaf and blinded their sight. So you get authority and then you cause mischief. He has made them deaf and blinded their sight. Do they not then earnestly seek to understand the Quran, or are their hearts locked up by them? By the way, in Ibn Hajar's version, it continues. He says, can there be any worse fitna than the murder of Hussein? Meaning, is there anything worse than killing Hussein? Who's that? Ahmad bin Hanbal. Reference number 1. Does la'an on Yazid. La'an. Reference number 2. The same person who I quoted, Alusi Baghdadi, who's a famous mufassir. Mufassir means someone who wrote an interpretation of the Quran. In his tafsir, Ruh al-Mani, he says Yazid is a kafir. He says Yazid is a non-believer. Why does he say it? Let me quote to you why he says it. Let me show you why he says it. And I say, this is him saying it now. And I say, what is prevalent what is prevalent over my mind, that Yazid Khabith. Khabith means the wretched. In Arabic, it means the wretched. So he calls Yazid, and he says Khabith. Yazid Khabith did not testify to the messenger of the Holy Prophet. Meaning he didn't even believe in the Prophet. According to me, it is correct to curse a person like him. And apparently he never done tawbah. He never repented. The possibility of his repentance is weaker than the possibility of his faith. You getting that? The possibility of him doing tawbah is even weaker than him even basically believing in Islam. Along with Yazid ibn Ziyad, who was the general, Umar ibn Sa'd, general, Ibn Ziyad was the one who told Umar ibn Sa'd, and his group shall be included. They're all included in this group. They're all cursed. Verily, may Allah's curse be upon all of them, their friends. Listen to this, Sunni Imam. He's not a joke, this guy. Mufassir of the Quran. You say his name, Sunni ulama will put their head down. May Allah's curse be upon all of them, their friends, their supporters, their group, and upon everyone who inclines towards them. You know the guy that says, no, we shouldn't talk about this. You know the guy who says, no, Yazid, you made a mistake, we shouldn't. You know that kind of soft behavior.
Add into categories.
And incline towards them until Yawm al-Qiyamah, and until I shed a tear for Abu Abdullah al-Hussain, until someone cries for Imam Hussain, he said. Sunni army. You made this into a Shia issue? This is a Shia issue. And again, one more reference, and we wrap it up. Qadi 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗦𝗧, who's in the Indian subcontinent known as the Ustad by all ulama of the Ahl Sunnah. Two scholars, Qadi 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗦 and Muhaddis Shah Abdul Haq Dehlavi. What does he say? Qadi 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗦, what does he say? Yazid and his associates did kufr. In his tafsir Mazari, Yazid and his associates did kufr with the bounties of Allah. They deemed it their aim to have a grudge against the progeny of the Prophet and murdered Hussein with oppression, and Yazid did kufr with the religion of the Prophet. And to the extent that Yazid recited the following couplets, poetry, over the murder of Hussein. So when he killed Imam Hussain and the head was brought and he hit the head, do you know the poetry Yazid recited? Let me recite the poetry for you. Where are my ancestors? Who's his ancestors? Abu Sufyan, the Banu Umayyah, the people who fought Prophet in Badr, Muawiyah, the people who fought the Prophet at Badr. Where are my ancestors? They should come and see that I have taken revenge from the progeny of the Prophet and Banu Hashim. Meaning he's continuing the war. The people that say he became Muslim, he's saying, no, I'm still on these lot for what he done to my forefathers. I still hate them. That's why, where are they? Come and see what I done to the Prophet's grandson. I got revenge for what their forefathers done to my forefathers on the day of Badr. And the last phrase, I would not be from the progeny of Jundub had I not taken revenge from the progeny of Ahmed. Who's Ahmed? The Prophet. Meaning I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't take revenge for the Prophet. I hadn't taken revenge on the Prophet's grandson. Meaning I killed the Prophet because I killed Hussein because I hate the Prophet. I ain't got no issue with Hussein. I hate Hussein because of the Prophet. Moreover, he made alcohol halal. The scholars call this istiqlal, meaning when you make something clearly haram, halal. The scholars call this kufr. If you know something, it's meaning not, you got to pay attention to this principle. It's got to be muttafaq alayh. Everyone agrees, not things that are disputed amongst. So alcohol, everyone agrees is haram. If someone came today and said alcohol is halal, it would be kufr because you're rejecting clear verses of the Quran, clear. What does he say? The treasure of alcohol is in the utensil, which is like silver, and the branch of grapes are loaded by grapes. And the depth. He's talking nonsense about alcohol, promoting it. Thus, if one day alcohol was made haram in Ahmed's religion, Ahmed being the Prophet, then addressee, then no. People that are asking me, you just take it according to the religion of Masih, meaning Jesus. That no, I'm a Christian, because Christians are known to drink. They make it. His mother was a Christian. So what does he say? He goes, those that say it's haram, know that I'm following Christianity today. He doesn't care. So Qadi 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗍 in his tafsir Mazari. Last reference. Muhaddis Shah Abdul Haq in his 𝗙𝗢𝗚𝗕𝗦𝗦𝗏, completion of faith, or perfection of faith. Perfection of faith. He mentions in that Yazid is a kafir and he is wretched. Someone says, he mentions in the book, he says, but someone says killing Imam Hussain is just a sin. The Sunni scholar says, he's a scholar in the Indian subcontinent, every single Sunni goes back to him. The first person in the Indian subcontinent who was basically the authority of the Sunnis. He says, If someone says, oh, but Yazid done a sin, it's not kufr. He said, I wonder at such a person that the Prophet said, whoever loves Hussein loves me. And I love the one who loves Hussein. And I hate the one who hates Hussein. So he linked it. He said, how can you claim to say, I hate Hussein, but then say, oh, it's just a sin? Because he links it to the Prophet using these hadiths. Muhaddis 𝗧𝗪𝗥𝗓 mentions this in his book. So that's the khulasa of all the ulama. And by the way, for the Salafi scholars that love quoting Ibn Jawzi, Ibn Jawzi has written a whole book condemning Yazid. Let me get it. Is that Ibn Jawzi? No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. 1 minute. Abu al-Faraj, Ibn Jawzi, who the Salafis adore. They adore this man. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's the same one who wrote that book, Al-Mawdu'at, where he dealt with all the fabrications. What does he say? Abu al-Faraj Ibn Jawzi wrote a separate book deeming it permissible to curse Yazid. Who writes that? Ibn Kathir in his 𝗙𝗢𝗪. What's the book's name? Al-Rad ala al-Mutassib ala Anid al-Mani mim Zamil Yazid. A whole book written to condemn and curse Yazid. So what I'm trying to say is, this issue is not a Shia issue. Scholars that have been just, I'm not saying there's not Sunni scholars that are Nasibis, that defend Yazid to this day. But just know that the Sunni scholars and Shia scholars that have been upon truth have always condemned this individual and condemned whoever's involved. The problem is that the reason why Sunnis are scared of this is because they know where it leads. It leads to Muawiyah. It leads to who gave Muawiyah power. It leads to who gave Yazid power. And they all condemned individuals. So we leave it at that. Inshallah, we're going to keep doing this, and we're going to keep mourning for Imam Hussain, no matter how much it hurts all you Yazidi, all you people who are descendants and spiritual descendants of Yazid. We're going to keep doing it, so get used to it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah bless all the viewers.